meet you. I'm Chris Walker. Thanks for coming. Come on in, sit down. How are you doing today? Good deal. So, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a senior at Northeast Hamilton. I'm a four-season athlete. I played football in middle school. I'm a member of the Williams Lions Club. I have a part-time job in a nursing home in Webster City, and I babysit in my spare time.
What's spare time?
Sometimes that's what I think.
Yeah, I bet. Yes. So what brings you to Walker Quarter Horses?
I'm looking for a job that I believe will fill my needs that I'm looking for in a job.
And what are those?
I want to use my education that I've had growing up and put it to use. I know horses, not quite inside and out, but I know the basics, and I'm looking for a job to get going on.
Super. Tell me a little bit about what you've done with horses so far.
I grew up with horses. My dad bought my sister one when she was little, a Shetland pony, and he put it inside the house for Christmas.
Are you kidding me? Oh my gosh.
Really? We put it in the hallway and put a piece of sheetrock up so it didn't get out.
And this was for your sister?
Yeah.
I see what you get for you. I'd be mad.
I didn't get a horse.
That stinks.
So, and then a year or so later, I got my own. It was a...
Okay. And then, so what did you do with that pink horse?
Dad wasn't all... He was a wild horse.
Oh, no.
He didn't want to spend the time to break him in. So he just kind of ran around with the pony to give her a companion.
I see.
But then we did chores and...
So where did you keep the horses at then?
my dad's got an acreage outside Alden.
Were they... So if he was wild, he probably wasn't in the stall much, was he?
No. We have a... Most of the yard is turned into a pasture so they can get out and run.
Yeah.
They can go in the barn to get the food when they want it.
How'd you catch that pink horse?
I don't know. My dad came home with it one day with it. I didn't care how he got it. I was glad I got one.
How did you catch it?
He didn't. He just ran.
So after that experience, have you... Tell me about what you've done handling horses, specifically.
We got a couple more. They were tamer. And so we got, you have to let them get used to you before you get too used to them. And we saddle them, ride them, cousin barrel races, so if she has an extra horse, she's walking with an extra bundle with her.
Okay.
And warm up. Ride around town. Or when my cousin brings me to town, I'll ride around Williams with her. Or ride on the gravel road. Taking my grandma's, riding on the field.
Okay.
We had an American Beauty, just had a filly about 6 months ago.
Oh boy.
So
that's exciting.
It is. So we're working on catching her to get a halter on her to start breaking her in the next month or so.
That's a trick. Okay, I looked at your resume, Harli, which was very well written, by the way. Good job.
Thank you.
And tell me a little bit about working on the hog farm.
It wasn't full time. It was when I had time and they needed help. I'd go with my dad to start out with and go load out hogs for Don Williams. My uncle Dusty needed help. Tyler Trees worked 4 out of select, so I'd go and help them sort baby pigs.
And what were you sorting out?
Sows and boars.
Okay.
And then the coals out of the litters.
Tell me how you picked a coal.
They had paint on their back.
They're easy to pick then. So somebody had already been through and sorted
Yes,
the healthy ones from the sick ones. Okay. But you have actually had to... How big were they when you were picking out the culls?
I've had ones from babies to 300-pound hogs.
Okay, so you've had to sort pigs.
Yes.
All right. The reason I ask that is because it's really important to me that you've been around livestock. I don't care so much that you maybe don't have quite so much experience necessarily, particularly with horses. I can help you with that. But what I cannot teach is where to be around livestock. So that's really important to me. Now I see that you're PQA certified, or licensed. Tell me about that a little bit.
Freshman year in our intro to agriculture class, the entire class had to take the PQA test. If you pass, pass, you pass. You can do it as many times as you wanted. And it expires next year.
Super.
So I could go back, ask them for a favor and go back and take it, or I just go and do it on my own.
Do you intend to follow up with that?
I do.
Excellent. Very good. Okay, there's a few other questions I have. Again, I don't worry so much that you maybe don't have quite so much hands-on experience with horses necessarily, but I like to know how you work on your own. Because on my farm, and I guess I haven't really talked to everybody else about my place, but I haven't talked to you. We don't have a huge spread. Okay, I have about 11 head of horses that are my own, and they're varying from broodmares to, well, actually, we don't really have any broodmares anymore, but, well, I do. There's one broodmare, and she's wild as the wind. But I've got a weanling, I have a couple horses that are in training to be sold, and then I have a couple steady eddies that I use for lessons. So I also give riding lessons to kids. And a lot of times I'm going to be busy. So I need to know how you operate when I maybe am not around. And I will give you a list of things to do, and I need to know that they get done. Tell me about a time where you have been given a list of tasks to do, and given an entire day to do it, and how you went about doing that.
My mom was in the hospital a few months ago with heart trouble, and so I had to it was just, my sister lives with my dad, so it was just me at home. So I had to do her daily chores on top of go to school, and if I had to work that day, on top it was sports too,
Yep.
So it's start in the morning and do the little stuff, and then if I didn't have to work, I'd go home, take care of the dogs, fish, do the sweeping, do a load of laundry, dishes when it needed to be done. So you had to prioritize what was more important and get it done first.
How'd you decide that?
I had to go off what my mom usually does.
Yep.
If she says something's important, you can do that first and worry about the little stuff later.
Give me an example of one of the
Dishes.
Yep. Gotta have dishes.
If I didn't have to do dishes, I was...
That's right. Okay, very good. We also show horses quite a bit, and you've done sports.
Yes.
The frustrating thing with showing animals is that no matter how hard you work, no matter how hard you did, you're still paying a judge for his opinion.
Yeah.
So, tell me about a time when you've had to deal with that kind of disappointment, where maybe you've worked really, really hard on something, and no matter how hard you worked on it, it still maybe wasn't perceived as the success you thought it was. And how did you deal with that?
10th grade, my 10th-page paper, I wrote that thing at least 3 times, and the computers kept crashing on me. And I finally turned it in, my margins were wrong. So I felt like I worked really hard on it, and I received a bad grade, which is not all my fault. It's not all the teacher's fault. It's technology wasn't on my side.
Right.
So as I kept writing other papers, I double-checked everything, and even asked the teacher to make sure this was right before I turned it in, before I got turned down again.
Very good. And what kind of success have you had since then?
Better. Technology and me aren't the best of friends. I'd rather use pen and paper, but...
Oh, I'm so glad to hear somebody say that. Excellent. Good to know. Okay, this will be a good question for you then, too. Tell me about your last Facebook post.
Honestly, I typed in a whole bunch of letters. I didn't know me and my mom had a little quarrel, and I didn't know what to say, and so I just typed a bunch of letters and posted it.
Okay.
Just to know that I could get it out some way without making somebody look bad or anybody's feelings.
Would you do it over again?
I would. I would have talked out with my mom more before I posted it.
Okay, now I'm going to just move into some things that are a little bit more specific to the job that we do. Maybe I should tell you a little bit more about that. What I would be looking for is for somebody that can show up every day, and understand that, like you said, there are chores that need to be done, and this is a livestock farm. This is what we do. So the very first thing that you'll have to do every day is to catch each one of the horses, tie them up, and go clean stalls. And what that involves is pretty much getting the turds out of the stall and dumping the turds in a pile. And would you be comfortable doing that?
I am more comfortable doing it.
Excellent. Now, the other thing, and your responsibilities would be varied. There may be days where all you do is clean stalls. There may be other days where I need you to take a horse out and lunge them. You might have to lope them down for me. So there would be a myriad of things. There might be days where you might have to drive a truck and trailer to somewhere and dump off a horse and drive it back. Have you driven a truck and trailer?
Yeah.
Okay. How about a tractor?
Yep.
Excellent. Skid loader?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I was driving
The
a couple of
trifecta.
those before I was allowed to drive.
That's good to know. Very good. And how would you feel about lunging a horse?
I'm not sure what it is.
That's very good to be honest in an interview like that. That's awesome. Okay, so what lunging is effectively you'd halter a horse, and horses do best when they're sucking for air. Okay, so what this does is it allows them to blow off steam, and so you halter them. There's a really long, maybe 30-foot long line that you put them on, and they'll run around you.
Okay.
And so basically, you're just getting them
Like tying them to the back of a lawnmower and just driving around.
sort of, except they go faster this way. So, if you were taught how to do that, do you feel like you would be comfortable doing something like that?
Yeah.
Very good. Okay. Do you have any questions for me?
Why did you start your company from the ground up?
Yes, we did. My husband and I, we met, he was training horses for somebody, and I also worked for those people. And then we started our own breeding farm. We started out with a paint horse and one that we had raised, and moved on. We then had a quarter horse stud that we stood for a while. I don't know how familiar you are with the Quarter Horse Association.
We have one.
Fairly recently, the association allowed embryo transfer.
Yep.
And for me personally, as a small stallion owner, it became very difficult to compete then with the genetics and training of some of these horses when everyone then can have the best bred horse. It's hard to compete. So, and that was fine. It did what it was intended to do, and we no longer breed horses. So now I capitalize on our strengths, which are pretty much training. So now we can buy horses fairly cheaply, and we have the facilities to train them, and we train them and sell them, which is kind of a niche because there's not a lot of people that are willing to do that so much anymore. And I also, like I said, give riding lessons, and there's quite a bit more of that. In fact, you could give riding lessons all you wanted to. There's always a kid that wants to learn to ride, which is refreshing. So yeah.
Sounds good.
Do you have any other questions?
I think that's it.
Okay, now the last thing I want you to do is I have my imaginary